Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Up North podcast of Ice and Fire, now named The Bear and the Maiden. I am one of your hosts, and I am Sam number one.
And I'm Sam number two.
And today's episode is top 5 characters we love and top 5 characters we hate.
Yeah, we definitely went for a split for this because I've gone for characters that are not necessarily don't get me wrong, they are well loved and well hated characters, but not main characters. They're more side characters or only appear for a short period of the entirety of the show anyway. Again, for anyone new, I've never read the book, so we're not going based off books. For this one, we're going solely based off the show.
Yes, we most certainly are. Otherwise, it would be a very short list.
Very short list. Yeah, we know the characters in the books, but not really why we love or hate them.
Exactly. So I'm going to get the disclaimer out the way with first, and then we're going to crack on because we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from this episode, please come and join us in the Facebook group where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom, so keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get that on a t-shirt one day. So let's crack on.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I did want to talk about, there was a couple of characters, because I've actually been rewatching it, because from our discussions last time and away from the podcast, we've both been watching it.
Yeah.
I've rewatched From the Reigns of Castamere onwards, because I was watching that anyway. And so obviously it helped me a lot for this anyway, because I got to rewatch it there and then. And before we got into the loved and hated, the split divide, I wanted to talk about a couple of characters, well, 5 in particular, that for me just immediately was split right down the middle.
Okay.
The first one, 4 characters, not 5. I'm really bad at that. The first one being the High Sparrow.
Oh.
The reason, your initial thoughts based on obviously everything that happens, you hate him. You know, he comes in and he's and how he is, and you kind of get it, and you have an almost immediate sort of hate. However, the reason why I love him is because of the way that he talks, in particular to Cersei, Jaime, and Olenna.
Very matter of fact.
But he has a mutual respect for who they are. But he shuts them down. He is the only character to leave Olenna Tyrell and Cersei Lannister completely speechless. Completely speechless. And those dialogues, if you go back and watch them, you kind of sat there going like, "Ooh," you know, that is the sort of stuff that he says is good, is really, really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, then you hate him because he gets really tyrannical, and you kind of see that he doesn't really. Not that he doesn't care about the faith, it's more the fact that he wants that control and power, because you see it, because he starts becoming really smug. And
there's a level of smugness is the right word when it comes to him, but I feel slightly indifferent with him when it comes, because he's there because Cersei put him there, although it completely backfires on her. But that just makes me go, ha ha, Cersei.
That's the thing, you start turning around and you have a bit of love for him because of how he is and how he reacts and interacts with other characters, and because someone's so hated as Cersei, it backfires massively. Hugely. Something that she never expected, something that she never saw, and you see a turn in Cersei's character. She's actually really unsure about some things, because she now doesn't have full control like she used to. Like, not at all.
It's like having her father back, but 10 times worse.
10 times worse, because with Tywin, obviously there was a certain amount of leeway, a little bit, because he wouldn't go and force her to do some really stupid stuff. Whereas the High Septon didn't care at all, and that for me is why he fell on that list of loved and hated, because he would have been a solely hated character. I nearly put him on my hated list, but then I remembered those interactions, and I loved those interactions so much. And the next 3 are almost all tied into one, because it's the 3 Baratheon brothers that we are introduced with at the start. I both love and hate them. You know, you've got
Right.
Renly, who is
He was just a little pup.
he
That's all
was
he
he was a little pup,
was.
but he was very arrogant with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he was nice. He was good to people. Obviously, he was good to Brienne at the very start,
He
and
was.
he was a
He
different style
was.
of character because it was the first kind. When it came to Game of Thrones, it was the first proper gay character that we really saw
It's true.
properly, and he was quite scared about that. And he's got two bigger brothers that are much different to how he
Mm-hmm.
is, and he's very takes a back seat for it. But he's a very good character still. We see a lot of interactions in the small council, and he's
Yeah.
just interesting. And there's not really a proper reason to hate him other than he's really naive and a bit stupid.
Just look at it from Renly's point of view. He watched his big brother usurper a throne. How could he not in his head think, I can do that?
Exactly, I can do that as well, because he knew that. Again, I'll move on to Robert now as well. He knew that Robert wasn't the best king. He knew, but it was his big
Robert
brother.
knew he wasn't the best king.
Exactly, Robert didn't, and this is why I both love and hate him, because he could have been a better king. But the problem with Robert is that he didn't realistically want the throne. He just wanted almost retribution for Lyanna.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think his initial goal when Robert's rebellion happened was to take the Iron Throne. I think.
No.
Oh, I really don't know how that would go because nobody knew that. Nobody told Jaime to do what he did.
No,
So
100%.
like in my head, that's one that I think would be a very good talking point at some point, like, because I don't even know how that happens.
I mean, with the Mad King's death and Jaime killing him, we know why Jaime did it.
Yeah.
But the sort of what sort of happened if he didn't or anything like that, we don't have really any sort of inkling. I mean, he would have probably ended up dead anyway because Robert was Robert. And he had the backing of Tywin Lannister because the Lannisters changed sides from the Targaryens to the Baratheon rebellion, Robert's
because
rebellion.
Tywin hated him.
Yeah,
hated him.
It was just so messy, and it would have gone different ways. But yeah, Robert never wanted the throne, and so he just did, again, naively, stupid things, and just thought he could. I'm here to.
Yeah.
The famous small council bit of, I'm here to rule. You're here to counsel me, counsel Ned, and all this sort of stuff. And he just didn't really do what he should have done.
No, you're absolutely right. I generally think Robert becoming king is solely down to Tywin's whispers in his ear. You need to become king.
Marry my daughter.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff,
absolutely. Put everything right that was taken away from him, because remember, Cersei was actually betrothed to Rhaegar. That was all snatched away from him.
That's true, yeah.
And it kind of like corrects it. It is Tywin like literally pulling the strings on all this.
Yeah, definitely. But there's a really good interaction between Robert and Cersei towards the end of season 1, not long before Robert dies. And he's quite sorry for a lot of things, and almost like how their marriage ended up the way that it did. And
do you think Robert knew that the end was near?
I don't know
in
if he knew
some
that the
sense.
End was near, maybe, but it was also just that random sort of conversation.
Because that was too personal for them too.
Yes, it was, because Cersei got really into it as well, and it was just because Robert was swayed by all the new power that he had. He can do whatever he wanted, and nobody was there to stop him. And that was the problem, is that nobody was there to stop him.
Yeah. What I would love to see is Robert in his prime.
Oh my God.
Because even Ned's like looks at him, even that first interaction, him and Ned, where he just looks him up and down, and he's like,
"You're fat."
Yeah, you're fat. But I would love to see him in his prime, because he was meant to be like quite tall, like broad.
He was supposed to be 6'6", and he wielded a two-handed warhammer with one hand, and there was next to nobody really alive, apart from the likes of Barristan Selmy and Sir Arthur Dayne, being pretty much the only two that would have potentially been that's only a potential, not a guarantee, that could have taken down Robert Baratheon. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mark Addy.
Oh, it's perfect.
He played him brilliantly. Like I can't. He was outstanding. But as far as in his prime, it would be something to. I'd love to see a Robert's Rebellion sort of style TV show. because it's so interesting, but also to see certain different characters in different lights. We got a little bit of a snippet of Ned Stark being younger.
Yeah, tiny snippet, but I would love to see Ned. I'm not really bothered about Ned actually. When I think about it, I'm more bothered about Robert, because Robert is Ned. You can see not a lot's changed, like with his appearance.
He's just gracefully grown older from what he once was.
But he's kept himself, he's kept himself fit, and he's clearly like he can still wield his sword without any issues. It's Robert is like a huge change.
Yeah, it's just gluttony, and it would be, but also obviously on the flip side of seeing Robert's Rebellion, you get to see a lot of Rhaegar Targaryen as well, because he was supposed to be a really accomplished fighter, and Robert killed him with relative ease.
Yes, knocked the shit out of his chest.
But not really a full blown, but seeing a massive Targaryen sort of army as well would be cool, because the only sort of one that we're going to get given is going to be split between Targaryen in the House of the Dragon.
Targaryen houses.
We're going to see more sort of dragons rather than a Targaryen army.
Mm-hmm.
But then from that, and moving on to the last brother in Stannis, for me, Stannis is actually an incredibly good character all the way up until the point of when he kills Shireen.
You can't justify that.
Well, this is the thing, though, is that it's not just Stannis. His wife agreed to it. Melisandre was the one constantly whispering in his ear. Stannis was told that he was the prince that was promised some higher sort of power, and he felt it, that he needed to do something about this, and he was told every which way, and he went out like a badass. He was people were scared of him. He had a great advisor in Davos, but again, it was Melisandre pulling a lot. If Melisandre wasn't there pulling a lot of the strings, I genuinely believe that Stannis would have routed the kingdom and just and took the throne from him. He would have had basically he'd have a Stannis rebellion.
Stannis rebellion, something I never ever want to hear.
Because he had a massive army. Most of the wildlings he just wiped out, showed up, wiped out. A very, very good commander. He was wise as well. He wasn't naive like Renly. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he was younger than Robert, but he'd already seen a lot of hardship as well because of stuff that had happened on Dragonstone when he was told to go and take Dragonstone by Robert.
And he also, his parents as well. His parents' death really messed him up. Yeah. Did they die they died on a shipwreck or something, didn't they? And
maybe battered into the sides of the Stormlands,
something like that. And he was waiting for them, and they never returned. And he become very bitter and very much of his own person. He completely separated himself from his brothers. But wasn't it Stannis and Jon Arryn who initially started the hunt for Robert's bastards?
Yes, because Jon Arryn had found obviously the sort of link that Baratheons were all basically born with very dark hair. There's never been a Baratheon with light hair, and that's how he found all that.
Am I being really stupid here? But you look at the three of them with blonde hair, and you think to yourself, "Hang on a minute, come on, am I being daft?"
Also, got to remember that it was only the three Baratheon brothers. That they're the only sort of Baratheons that were realistically around anyway. And Stannis was never really seen, and Renly was at court. And the Lannisters are like Targaryens; they have very strong genes. So again, so do Baratheons. But it could have just been one of those sort of things of, their mum's extremely blonde.
It's just when like that in House of the Dragon with Princess Rhaenyra's children, and I'm like, come on, man, people.
I know,
they're definitely not his.
They're not a Valyrian. Like, come on now, he's got grey hair. Rhaenyra's got white hair.
They've got dark hair. Are they Baratheons?
No, they're strong. They're strong. You look very strong, nephews. That was Aemon. Aemon, I can't again. We kept butchering names the other day. Whatever his name is. One more guy. But yeah, they were strong. Because again, that's a house that we could, is quite an interesting one for that. But yeah, they were the ones that fall either side for me, because all three of them effectively died because of their naivety.
Yeah.
When realistically they shouldn't have. But they're not actually bad characters. They're actually guys that you do get behind early doors, but then they do something that you immediately just suddenly hate them.
I can't just Renly. I can't hate at all.
He's the only one that you can't fully hate.
No, Renly was just a kid who was just, if my brother can do that, so can I. And to be fair to the kid, like, he really, like, got his army together. What was it, the Rainbow Army? Was it the Rainbow Army?
God knows. But they had the Tyrells on their side, obviously, at the time. So he had the biggest army.
Yeah, and he had the money to back it up. Tyrells are very well known for being incredibly rich. So that he had a strong starting point. It's just a shame his vanity and his, like, because he almost was like showboating like a lot.
To Stannis, yeah, that's what he did to Stannis. Stannis was like, lay down your arms. You know, I'm your older brother. I have the rightful claim. And then he was like, right, see you tomorrow, mate. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what you can only hate him a little bit for, was because of his vanity. Whereas Stannis, you can hate the most out of everyone, and Robert was just, you kind of like, that's just a terrible king.
And Renly even died in front of a mirror. Like, how vain can you get?
True, very, very true.
Stabbed in the heart while looking at himself in the mirror.
Yeah,
he did have the best crown though. The stag.
Out of all three of them,
he had the
best crown.
And the fact that he even wore a crown was hilarious. Like, Robb Stark didn't have to wear no crown.
That's just normal, isn't it?
Yes.
But yeah, no, that's why those four for me fall. I wanted to put a couple of people on the list because there are plenty more that you can have personal opinions on that fall on either side. There's lots and lots of Jorah and what he did at the very start, redeemed himself, but again,
massively. This is what I've done, because there's a couple of characters like Jorah, Sansa and Theon. Now, Jorah was never in this category. More Sansa and Theon. I fucking hate Sansa Stark at the beginning, but she has one of the most redeemable arcs, and she has an arc that shows progression and growth and learning and adaptability. So there's things she was just a naive little girl who I could have quite easily put my fist in her face when she first went to King's Landing.
Oh, she was such a bad character. I hated her so much. But about the redemption, for me, her arc goes up. And then when Jon Snow becomes King of the North and they get reunited, her character arc drops off again because she starts being really bitter, because she starts trying to make decisions and stuff. And Jon's like, I've made a decision, deal with it. And she's like, yeah, oh, fine. Like a little miserable.
If it wasn't for her, Jon would have fallen at the Battle of the Bastards quite easily. If it wasn't for the Lords of the Knights of the Vale coming in and saving the day, and that was all down to her. But because of that move, she then become bigger than what she was. It's like
she thought she was too big for her own shoes at that point.
Yeah,
because it's also how she spoke down to Lord Glover when they went to the last half. Is that what the Glover's home is called? I can't remember. And she tries talking down to him as well, and he's like, I'm not having this sort of thing. Jon's trying to be really respectful, and I get it to a degree, but she's just
Ned Stark would never have spoke to people like that.
No, and she gets again to be a little bit, for me, because I'm on that point now of my rewatch as well. I'm at like the start of season 7. And for me, it's getting to that little bit again where she just has that look on her face where you just think, oh, fuck off.
Go away, Sansa. So I used to call her Sansa Dumbface. She had a proper dumb face when she wasn't really talking. Like, she has some fantastic moments and some fantastic redeemable features, like redeemable qualities for me. I understand there's bit it with her it does go up and down, but there is some moments but you've got to remember with Sansa who she's had influence in her for a very long period of time. So many people. Yes, so it's easy to forgive when you know who the people have been influencing her around her. Maybe if she was with Jon for a longer period of time, she wouldn't have gone on the way that she did. But she had the likes of Peter Baelish. She then got to see how Ramsay was, how the Lannisters were. She's had all these incredibly negative influences on her that no wonder she went the way she did.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's just one of those. But again, I think the Sophie Turner plays, but I just can't get over how good the casting is across the board for Game of Thrones. Just It's phenomenal, considering that Sophie Turner was what, 12, I think.
She
when
was
it
a
first
baby.
started.
They were babies when they first started.
Yeah, yeah, and they were still, even at that sort of age, it was their first major role. Same as Maisie Williams, who plays Aya. It's just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant.
So are we gonna? Do you want to get angry first, or do you want to feel all lovey-dovey first? Which way? Where do you want to go? Do you want to get the anger out the way with, and then we can mellow ourselves out?
Then we can finish on a bit more of a positive note as well.
Yeah, and then we can mellow ourselves out towards the end. So we're going to go top 5 hate, and we're just going to rain them off, list them off.
Yes, we should just do like 15 minutes each of our hated characters or something like that.
Just fucking tell us your 5. I'm
dying
to know.
Right. So these are in no particular order. These are just 5 characters hated. Yep. First on my list is Grand Maester Pycelle.
Not on mine, but excellent choice. He's a dick.
He's a dick. But there's also a brilliant deleted scene of him and Tywin, where Tywin basically says, "Cut the act. I can see right through it." Do you know he hobbles around?
Oh, yeah, and he
stands up straight and he goes, "You're the first person to notice that." And it's just like, you dick.
He's a dick.
He's insufferable because he's such a snotty-nosed little turd, old turd.
And it took me ages to realise who the actor was.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but he's
him from Indiana Jones.
Yes, yeah. So again, brilliant acting, but he's up everybody's. His nose is so brown, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And but then he gets found out. He tries to worm his way out of everything, and he gets killed by kids in the end, and it's brilliant. Next on my list is Melisandre. Don't get me wrong. Some of the best naked scenes in television history.
Absolutely.
Oh my god! It's just this sensual. It's not just a case of here's a boob. It's how sensual it is, and all that sort of stuff.
It's so tastefully done. It's not just like, here's some tits. But she does have one of the most terrifying reveals when she takes her necklace off, because people are not expecting that.
Slight plot hole with that, because she has a bath in an earlier season.
That's right.
And isn't wearing the necklace. So it's a bit of a plot hole, but because she's supposed to be about 400 years old. That's the story. But she doesn't, for me, to not put her onto that middle part, like how I've done with the High Sparrow and Renly, there's not enough redeemable qualities for me that pulls her back across, because after the whole thing with the end of Stannis and killing Shireen, she becomes a miserable little moper. She doesn't quite know what's going on. Yes, she revives Jon, but then she gets banished, obviously, because Davos finds out that she killed Shireen after she's all like, Davos, it was terrible. There's nothing I could possibly have done.
She doesn't take any accountability for her actions.
She doesn't know, and it's bad. And yes, she helps towards the end, big time.
It's not enough though. She killed a kid.
Exactly. She whispers in Stannis' ear, "Too bad." And for me, because again, I quite like Stannis, it just made it that much worse, because she was almost the ruler and Stannis was just a puppet.
Yep.
After that, I've got a duo, because they share the same last name, is Lyssa and Robin Arryn.
I hate that bitch. She's not on my list, but oh my god, she is the fucking worst.
It's just a voice, because even when Catelyn gets there, and Catelyn's like, doesn't quite know what to do, because
she's got a nearly a fully grown adult breastfeeding. Like,
she's just so weird. And obviously, Robin grows up to be a little turd, and Peter Baelish said it right, is that nobody smacked him enough. His mother didn't smack him enough when he was a kid. Because
should have been pushed through the moon door just like her.
Because Robin Arryn could have had a really good arc. After his mother died, he could have taken the advice of Jon Royce, I want to say, the master
big guy
with whatever he is.
I can picture him.
He's basically the head of the Vale soldiers.
He's the guy who goes,
Manda.
I don't think so. When Peter says he wants to be taken back to the Vale, he's good. I don't think so.
Yes, things like that. But again, Robin could have had a really, really good character arc, because his mother had finally gone. That was his bad influence. But yet, still, he was just a snivelly little turd. And he appeared right at the very end. Didn't really do much at all either at King's Landing.
Sat there.
He just sat there. Now, don't get me wrong, an incredible glow up. but he's a very important lord, and it could have just. I mean, yeah, it would have been a very much side sort of quest, but I think he could have had quite a decent character arc, to be fair. But yeah, Lysa Arryn, her voice just grates me really, really bad. She's horrible to her sister. She just has a really weird way about her. She was horrible to Sansa. Loved Baelish because she loved him forever, and then she got a comeuppance by being flung out the moon door. Happy days.
Couldn't happen to a nicer person.
Exactly. Next on my list is Sir Janos Slynt.
Oh, first joint one. Absolutely hate the bloke. Was the most satisfying thing in the world watching Jon Snow take that bastard's head.
I couldn't decide between Sir Meryn Trant or Sir Janos Slynt.
Janos Slynt is the fucking worst. First F-bomb of the day goes to that. What? I hate him.
I agree. It's because of the sort of stuff that he says. Because like Sir Meryn Trant is a slimy little worm anyway. He's horrible. He's disgusting, but he is. Whereas with Janos Slynt, it's the characteristics that I don't like. He's very backstabby, and he's like he'll act all big. I was like head of the King's Guard. I was in the King's Guard before you were born. Blah blah blah. You know, and he even stood at the top of the wall. Giants aren't real. They're just a fairy. It's like there's a giant riding a mammoth right there.
And he friggin' hid in the crypt, and it's the fact that he is one of the reasons Ned does not have a head. Because he was the type of person who was like, he was a traitor. He tried to buy me. And then Tyrion's like, you full of shit. You go into the wall. And then he tries to backchat Jon. And Jon's like, I'm taking your fucking head. And Jon did not know in that moment, he kind of redeemed Ned's death. Like he kind of had a little bit of vengeance for Ned's death.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think what Janos Slynt does as well, because he's such a weapon, he's like a Grima Worm.
Sorry,
that's the sort of character that he is. That's right. He's a Grima Wormtongue kind of character because he will cling on to something stronger than himself and leech. He's a leech. And even at the very end, he shows his true colours because he thinks he's just going to get away with it by being a little baby. And Jon's like, nah, mate, lop.
I know, it's the whole, I'm scared. I've always been scared. And Jon's get, nope, head off, bitch. Yeah, I hate him. Yeah, absolutely hate him. He makes my skin crawl when he's on the telly, but the most satisfying thing is to watch him die and to watch him and Tyrion when Tyrion's like, you should have stopped it, imp, and he just lashes him off to the wall. But then he's very good at jumping ship to power, so he's very good at brown nosing his way to a higher power, because he ends up sitting on the Night's Watch like head table. Then when Jon becomes Lord Commander, shit, can't abide him. I hate him. The actor is so good though. Like,
don't get me wrong. Again, he
fantastic,
plays it perfect, like so perfect. But he is just such a little worm and a little slimy character. And where I picked him over Meryn Trant because that was Trent, wherever it is. That was that pick of it's either one of those two. And the reason why I didn't go again for Meryn Trant is because he is a dangerous weirdo. Like he is so weird, and he is pure evil.
Yeah.
And he's actually a strong character. This is the thing though. Yes, he is evil. He does some weird. He was beating up Sansa. He prefers the company of younger girls.
He is the one who I bumped off my list. Right just before we came on. Yeah, that's it. There's a few I've not picked, not because like I'm looking at who I like. There's a difference between who I don't like and who is just complete and utter evil. Like you will not find Joffrey or Ramsay on my list because there's a different level of sadistic when it comes to them, and Meryn Trant is there.
You can love them to a degree because their acting is so good that you go, wow, this is brilliant.
And Meryn Trant, like the guy who plays Meryn Trant, I used to watch the program afterwards, Talking Thrones, he was on there after his episode when he died, and holy shit, that man is like the nicest person ever. And I was like, at one point, I was like, I don't want to watch him because when I go, I'm like, that's all I'm going to think of when I'm watching his character, and he is awful the way he treats Sansa. Like, he's just a nasty, horrible person.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It was one of the between the two of them. But yeah, Janos Slynt was that pick, and then my last pick on my hated list is the waif.
Oh my God.
And she goes under the radar.
You mean the Terminator?
Yeah. We talk about characters that are just pure evil. She's not evil. She's just a fucking dick. She's
just a bitch who has the most like Terminator-like run I have ever seen. It's almost like she's animatronic underneath that skin. Yeah.
I know, it's ridiculous. And the thing is, I think the reason why she's a little bit bitter is because Jaqen H'ghar has almost chosen Aya a little bit over the Waif. And the Waif's got to train her, and she's like, I'm training a little highborn girl. But
I have so many issues with that whole House of the Black and White that she just doesn't come on my radar.
It is such a weird place that I don't think was explored well enough in the show.
No, it was not. We were so excited. Arya was going to be trained to be an assassin. Oh, is this what we're getting? It
wasn't for me. Yeah, it wasn't even the sort of backstory of the many-faced god and stuff like that. It was just kind of there's a many-faced god, and it's almost like you're watching Studio Ghibli at this point. Like you watch some Studio Ghibli things, like take Kiki's Delivery Service for instance, and you're like, okay, witch rides around on a broom. There's only a certain number of witches. Black cat talks. That's normal. Okay, cool. Let's carry on because you don't get any backstory. Whereas this is sort of the same sort of thing. Right, many-faced god. They can kill people. They use different people's faces. Okay, and you just got to accept it. Yeah, but the Waif just made those. Generally, the scenes are brilliant, and with certain scenes are brilliant. Again, a little bit boring to some parts.
Boring as shit.
The Waif is just she's just a bitch. She's not even bitch. She's not an evil bitch like Cersei. She is just a bitch.
Yeah.
Like she's just a bitter little, Well, that's why she's on my list, because it is, rather than just being this is great because she's so evil, like a Cersei.
Yes.
She's just I can't. Every time she gets on your screen, you just think, just fuck off.
Just fuck off just get off the screen. Get off. Oh, yeah. She is actually the actress is in one of my picks for my later podcast this evening, because I do love the actress. Yes, and she is in one of my favorite British films, so that she's in there. I didn't know it was her until way later on, but she is a hell of an actress. It's a pity she played that part.
Yeah, definitely. And her death is very, even though it's kind of cutscene, I like her death because Aya blows out the candle because she knows she has the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you see is a bloody trail of her face, and Jaqen H'ghar's almost impressed, which shows you that he did prefer Aya.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably didn't really like the Waif much herself, because she was a whiny cow as well.
She was very whingy.
No, it just fucked me up every time she appeared on the screen.
I was just expecting so much more. We were like, Arya's going to go and be an assassin, and she's got to go through this training where she's going to be blind. And we knew it was like, me and my husband knew it was coming, and we were so excited. And then this is what we got.
Yeah, and we had to deal with the Waif.
Yes.
Boring.
Well, so you've taken one of my picks is already gone. Mr. Janos Slynt, because he's a dick. Okay, so my first two.
18 plus warning on the video. Or is that PG-13 now, technically?
My first two are husband and wife.
Ooh.
We've already mentioned him once today, twice today, maybe even 3 times. It is Stannis Baratheon and Selyse Baratheon, the absolute pair of dickheads.
Oh, you know what? I can get a bit excited. This is where the first time you see us on the podcast, I do not agree with Stannis being on your hated list. I don't like. Obviously, respect your opinion. I 100% agree with the wife, though. She was a contender for my list because she's fucking awful to everyone.
She is horrible. She is a horrible person. Her daughter is nothing but the most kindest, most intelligent little girl I've ever come across. Like, there's a reason Davos loves her as much as he did. And she was just fucking horrible. Again, the actress who plays it, Tara Fitzgerald, is another actress who is on my list for my other picks tonight. Completely
you find it a lot. There's a lot of great English actors on the in Game of Thrones anyway.
Tara Fitzgerald is a hell of an actress who it's almost like she got there and then she didn't. Like, she keeps getting there and then she's not. But the pair of them, I can't. Stannis, I just want to put my head through the screen every time he's on. I cannot get away with him. There is nothing for me that is redeeming about that man whatsoever. Even at the very end, like at least his wife went, "Oh, this is no, we shouldn't be doing this." Even she at the end knew it was wrong, and he still stood there and did it.
But he knew Stannis was a man that was very, he was realistic. He was completely realistic, and he knew that him running towards the fight was going to do absolutely. He had to turn his back, and that was the only thing he could do because he was ashamed of himself.
He should have went on. He should have went and sat next to her in the fire and burnt himself because he's just a horrible man. Did you notice how quiet I was as well when you were talking about him? Because I was like, I was waiting for it.
It does actually. Now it does, considering the conversations we've had about Stannis in the past.
Just not a fan of Stannis the Manus. I cannot bide him. And Selyse got on that because she was very much a part of the whole thing, even though at the end she knew it was the wrong thing to do. I'm glad she did what she did to herself.
What did she do?
But she killed herself.
Did you? I can remember that.
She did.
I've not long watched that episode as well.
Yeah, she killed herself, and because Stannis finds her hanging in a tree where she belongs.
Yeah, I do remember that now, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, them two joined top on my list. Number 3. Oh, this man.
Oh, were they picks 1 and 2?
I picked 1 and 2. Yep, them two.
Stannis pick.
No, they're 1 and 2.
I feel bad. My third one. Half cheated having Lyssa and Robin.
Oh no! I'm not going to cheat. This is number 3, and this man is had one of. If we ever do a list of satisfying deaths, this will be on my number 1 pick because it was fantastic. He deserved everything he got. Peter Baelish can get in the fucking bin.
God, the thing is, though, he was so good about getting around his own sort of lies and stuff like that. Like, even when he came back to the Vale and Hon Royce was like, well, what happened to Sansa? Because, you said you were going to take her home and all of a sudden she's married to a Bolton, and Peter's like, we were ambushed by Boltons or stuff. It rolled off the tongue. He was so good at it. It rolled off the tongue. And he built himself up from nothing.
Oh, yeah. His house. He created his own house. He created his own house. He created his sigil. Like, I will give the man his dues, but it doesn't mean I have to fucking like it.
Oh, God, no. He is just, in the way that he, like, almost like half groomed Sansa and kisses her.
Half groomed? He fucking groomed Sansa. He's icky. He was, all he wanted out of Sansa was what he couldn't get out of her mother. And that's just fucking sickening.
Literally, he makes your skin crawl.
I mean, to be honest, in the beginning parts of Game of Thrones with him and Varys, like, their scenes together were fantastic. They're backwards and forwards with each other. So good. And you understood that Peter understood what was going on. Like, he knew how to play the game. And if anything, Peter really set the whole game off. Like, we don't have what we have without Peter Baelish. But again, everything that he does doesn't mean that I have to like him. And his death when Sansa just is looking straight on at Arya and then does that little head turn and say, how do you answer for your crimes, Lord Baelish?
And he's like, and he begs and pleads like the little worm and coward.
His Welsh accent comes out so much. He's Welsh. He's Welsh, isn't he?
Northern Irish.
I'm positive he's Welsh.
Right, we're going to Google this right now.
I'm Googling this straight away. Lord Peter Baelish.
Aidan Gillen is an Irish actor.
Is he?
Is he fully Irish or is he Northern Irish?
I thought he was Welsh.
Oh, no, he's born in Dublin, so he's fully Irish, not Northern Irish.
His accent comes out. I honestly thought when he's in Queer as Folk, he sounds Welsh.
But watch him in Peaky Blinders, it really comes out there.
Oh my God, he's in Peaky Blinders. I've seen it as well. Yes, he is very Irish. Oh God, he still needs to get in the bit. I think I'll go and join him after that. I honestly was convinced he was Welsh. But no, he's very Irish. But his accent slips a lot because it's not him.
Yeah.
When he sounds scared, he doesn't sound like Baelish anymore.
No, Baelish's voice does change because if you watch, it's like in a lot of TV shows. To be fair, you'll notice that from season 1, even moving into season 2 or 3, a lot of characters' voices will change.
Yes. Now Baelish was very there was a line he said that kind of threw us because I thought it just did not sound like him at all. And it's when they're sitting at the small council and he says what the crown owes such and such, like Ned's kicking off about money and he's going, the coin, the crown spends it, the coin has to find it. And it's the way he says it. He's very his voice is, because he's quite got a low register later on. He doesn't, but it's quite high up and it's quite softly spoken. And then all of a sudden he's talking very seriously. And
it's, again, I think that's just this part of how they wanted to change it up a little bit, I think, for the show itself. Because his voice does make him that more creepier as well.
Yeah, I think it's just him hashing his character out, really, isn't it? And probably changing to these environments because he's going from King's Landing, where he has been everyone's little lackey because he worked for them. Now he's like,
now he's the boss almost, and that's why he was trying to craft for himself as well, and had a few stalling points and stuff. And he ended up he knew how to play the game, but he ended up getting played himself.
And it was absolutely hilarious.
It was
and
brilliant.
My last pick was going to be Meryn Tran, but for the reasons I said earlier, he is no longer there.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate this person so much for just one thing and one thing alone. Oh, I am the dragon. Sarah's Targaryen.
Oh my, yes.
I even said this to you the other day. I absolutely hate him.
The character, the actor, sorry, not the character, the actor who plays him. He's been in a couple of other bits as well, and he is a brilliant actor. He's great in I think he's in The Theory of Everything. He plays one of Stephen Hawking's best friends. He's also in Doctor Who as well as in a couple of episodes of that. But well, from what I've seen, but yeah, a character that you immediately hate from the very get-go of Game of Thrones. He's the first person you fully hate.
Oh, 100%. And if nothing, just because he has to keep telling everyone he is the dragon. And I'm just thinking, I am the dragon. You can't touch me. I am the dragon. Well, you can, because you got, and also one of the first brutal deaths, because he dies before Ned Stark. So it is one of the first brutal deaths. I mean,
you see it coming, so it's not the first unexpected death. You see it coming, not as quite as maybe as early or as bad as that. But
I did not expect. I thought Carl was going to do something like Khal Drogo, because like he disrespected his woman, like regardless that's his sister, that's his woman, that's his everything right there. And me and Anth were watching it the other night, and it's the fact that he puts all that jewelry into the pot and then all of a sudden it's just liquid, and me and Anth were like, no, that would not take like that long for that to melt. And then I was like, but yeah, do you really want to be waiting around for hours watching this pot?
You will die in a few hours.
Eventually, as soon as this heats up, you're for it.
You're gonna get it.
But he did have one of the best deaths, but he was a.
It's what Khal Drogo says as well, is that Viserys is like, he's like screaming for his sister, and she just watches, and Carl's like, a crown for a king. Pours it over, and it's the whole scream. Then it's also the thud as he hits the floor.
The dunk.
But what's funny as well is that shows it's a lot of foreshadowing as well, because if he was actually the dragon, it wouldn't have done anything to him.
Yes. Yeah, because as we all saw, if we were paying attention, because I don't think I was really paying attention at first, when you first see Daenerys and she walks into the water, we're not thinking that is a hot water. It's only until the maid turns around and goes, that's hot. But we're still really not paying attention, because Emilia Clarke's boobs are on show. I don't know. But we're really not paying attention to the fact that she's walking. We're not watching her walk into hot water. It's not until later on where we that we clicked it, actually. But what got me is that's not mentioned in House of the Dragon as being a Targaryen trait, not being able to be burned.
Is it not?
No, not that I recall. Because I was thinking that, I was like, is there any other Targaryens who have
I'm sure
not been
Daemon
able?
does something with fire in the House of the Dragon. I don't think it's potentially mentioned again because we've already had it in Game of Thrones, but I'm pretty sure Daemon does something with candles or some other shit. But you also see even earlier for Viserys, again when you look back, is when he's with the prostitute and she pours candle wax on him and he goes,
"Oh,
ow," you know.
yeah,
And
you wouldn't be able to. Oh, I never even thought of that. All
yeah,
I'm thinking about is just the dialogue between the two of them is absolutely fantastic, because you do
that's
find
brilliant.
a lot of the Targaryen history out there, that because she asks a lot of questions. So I'm really just paying attention. I didn't notice that.
And that's the great thing, and why I'd always say to people that regardless of your thoughts and opinions and how it ends and stuff like that, still watch it over again, watch the whole thing
Yeah,
over and over again. I mean, again, I
because
think
you
I'm on
will
my
pick little bits up.
my fourth or fifth rewatch of the entire thing. And it's, I mean, yeah, we mentioned it in the last episode that it is a bit sad that, we won't be able to feel the same emotions immediately that we felt, but it's still brilliant to watch.
Yeah, it is a very good watch.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we should move on to love things before we start hating people
Yes.
even more now.
Yeah, that's right. I've gotten my rage out. Let's get all lovey-dovey. So, your top 5 people you love.
So, what order do I go in? I'm going to say these randomly in the order. So, starting off with, I'm going to go Beric Dondarrion. Because he's not in it very much. And the very first time we see him, he's in Joffrey's courtroom, played by a completely different actor. And he is Lord Beric Dondarrion, because he is head of House Dondarrion. If I'm saying that wrong, apologies, but that's just
Beric Dondarrion. No, I think you're saying it right.
But just the interactions that he has, and it's cool. He's been brought back so many times by the Lord of Light, but his just how he is. He's just a nice character to have there, and you always like having Beric on the screen, and the flaming sword is cool as fuck.
Yes, it's true.
Because he does it with his blood as well. He uses blood magic for it rather than incantations.
But you see him because the way he lights it is with his hand.
Yeah, exactly. And it's brilliant, and his interactions with the Hound as well, really, really good, because there's a mutual respect, and he forms the Brotherhood of Brothers Without Banners. And I don't know if he's formed it, but he's head of it anyway. And they're just a nice little snippet to have in there, and he is a great, great character, along with Loras of Myr. Something, I think it's Loras of Myr.
Yeah.
The guy that has a top knot but no hair on the front of his head. Whatever it is.
I know who you mean.
Again, the interactions between those sort of characters are brilliant. Moving on as well, Jorah Mormont.
Oh, brilliant.
I don't see how anybody can have any sort of dislike for Jorah Mormont. He is a fantastic, stoic character. He knows right from wrong. He knows when duty is needed, like when the Rickcrasters keep, because he knows that we need this keep to be able to help us with doing stuff beyond the wall. Because it's it's a bit like a stopgap between the rest of the wilderness. So he's just brilliant, and yeah, he sets Jon Snow obviously on his ways and stuff as well. He's respectful, but he's also very hard when it needs to be. He's not hard for no reason.
Yeah.
Not like a Randall Tarley, for instance, who's just an arsehole for no reason to Sam.
That's true.
He could have gone on the hated list because he's a dick. Sticking with the sort of, I mentioned Cresta. On my love list is Gilly.
Oh, Gilly. Oh, she's adorable.
I think that she's one of those sort of characters. And again, this is why I wanted to have my list going a little bit away from everyone's first thoughts, and to go to characters that are not necessarily on. If you just to go straight up top 5 loved and hated, I don't think any of my the people that I've picked would be on anybody's top 5 list if it was just straight up. And that's why I wanted to make this list, because I like being a bit different from the norm anyway, but it helps to remember certain things about why we love Game of Thrones. And Gilly is on there because she's very innocent, and her interactions with Sam are so sweet, and it's just such a change from the norm of the show. There is no other interactions on the show like the interactions between Sam and Gilly and Little Sam as well.
Yeah.
Sam finds a place, he finds a passion, he finds a love. Gilly finds someone who rescues her and cares about her.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful, and how she takes care of him and he takes care of her. She went on my list after she was a contender for the list after the episode that I watched where two Night's Watch brothers are going to basically try and assault Gilly, we shall say. And Sam comes to obviously defend her. Sam gets up and says, is that all you got? You're kind of like all you got? I can go about this. And the way she cares for him and stuff like that as well. But also,
it's adorable.
Also, when she says what the baby's name is to Maester Raymond, that is so sweet. But what solidified it was how she stood up to someone I've just mentioned, Randall Tarley.
Yes, she just doesn't give a shit, does she? She's got nothing to lose.
No, she's got that wildling sort of strength, but she's not like what's her name? Osha, is it Osha?
Osha.
She's not like an Osha who's just like a feral wildling almost.
Yeah, she's almost feral, but she has a redeeming quality about her.
She does massively, yeah, because she really cares for Rickon and Bran, and Hodor. But yeah, I think it is just so sweet that it's such a nice, warming feeling, and I think that's why the Game of Thrones is just so brilliant, because you get that sort of really nice feeling, and you go back to something or really powerful, and it's just such a nice turn.
It is. But before we go any further, we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be back. Okay? And we're back, even though for you guys, we never even went. Right, where did we leave off? The last one was Gilly.
Yeah, just talking about Gilly, and it's just so brilliant that how sweet, given all the things that Game of Thrones is and all the storylines that are in Game of Thrones and everything like that, it's just so nice because there's not a bad bone in Gilly's body. There's nothing story apart from obviously her origins, which are awful. But you forget about that, because she couldn't have met a better other character to be with or anything like that. And she goes through some stuff afterwards, and she's left on her own in Moletown. And Sam's at the Citadel, which is the point that I'm up to now as well. Obviously the Randall Tarley thing, but it also shows how much Sam loves her as well, because he just wants the best life for her. And even though he knows he's not going to be allowed back to his home, he's like, well, my mum and dad will still take you in because this is my son.
Yes.
And it's just so nice,
It was quite refreshing to have a character who was incredibly innocent. Nothing was her fault. No, she wasn't her origin story is awful, but it wasn't her fault. And she still managed to remain incredibly sweet and loving. And I have a lot of time for Gilly. I can't say that I love her, but I can understand.
I think she's out of every single character on the list, she's the only one that hasn't done something bad or that can be considered, like, even if you've saved someone by killing someone, you've still killed someone. She has got to be the only character for that,
That's pretty good, that in Game of Thrones, to not have killed anyone.
To literally have never killed, anyone. Like anyone at all. And the reason why I said, murder's still bad is because my next pick is someone that the only bad thing that he did was kill someone, but it was saving Tyrion Lannister.
Oh.
It's Podrick Payne.
Oh, Pod. What secrets you have?
Exactly, yeah. Pod is very much a certain times a comic relief character. He's let's be honest, he's a B-Tech Bronn. He's not as comical as Bronn. He's much more of a background character anyway. He has good interactions with Tyrion, with Bronn, with Brienne. And you watch his character, his character arc is, again, interesting because he's probably the only character that starts off on a level anyway of still being good. And his rise it just slowly increases. Yeah. Every single time he's on the screen, it never goes down. he's probably one of the only characters where his arc doesn't dip at any point. Up and up and up and up it goes, because towards the end, in the Battle of the Long Night and stuff like that, he's ready.
Yeah.
He watches Brienne get knighted, and it's just...
And the pride in his face as well. Like, he really learned a lot from Brienne. It's the scene when he comes back from the brothel and he just puts the money down on the table.
Again, that's one of the best scenes, because it's that, and they pour him a drink and tell him. Even Bronn and Tyrion, who at this point we'd only ever heard realistically of killing and having sex, and even they're completely dumbfounded and stuff like that. And
what did you do?
I know, it's such a good scene, and for me, I just love Pod, because anytime he's on your screen and stuff like that, it's going to be a good scene.
Yeah.
No, it's either going to be like when it comes to like Brienne couldn't take off her armor and asks Pod, because she knows that Pod's been sent to Squire. It's not Pod's fault, but he still willingly does it and stuff like that. And obviously we're saving Tyrion's life as well. And he's a nervous little character, and he changes as he gets more towards the end of the seasons. And again, there's not a time where you see Podrick on the screen, you just think, oh, bugger off. Like, I can't be...
No, never, ever. You just all I can do is just go, oh, Pod.
What's even better as well is that his actor, I can't remember his actor's name, he is incredibly Scottish. He has got the thickest Scottish accent. Oh, really? Yeah. And at certain points within Game of Thrones, you hear a little twinge of it. But yeah, that's why he's on my love list, because you just enjoy every scene that he's in. There's no scene that he's in that you just think, could have done without that.
I totally agree. Even though he's not on my list, I totally agree.
my number one, or what I say number one, they're not in any particular order, but I think this one in particular has to be number one on my list. He's only in for 3/4 of one season. A lot of people love him, and his career has gone up and up and up for the actor. One of the most gruesome deaths, Oberyn Martell. And yes, he does have a decent fan base because of Pedro Pascal, but also because of how he is. But his character is, for me personally, when you actually delve deep, because again with the rewatch, I really focused on who I was going to put on this list. That's what I've been looking out for. Yeah. In my rewatch, obviously I've been watching, but particular for this list. And his character is arguably one of the most complete characters across the entirety of every character that's on the show. Yeah. Because not only is he a feared warrior, he's incredibly loved by his people. His partner incredibly loves him. His children love him. He loves them. He's very open and understanding. He's bisexual as well. And he doesn't kind of flaunt as much that I'm a prince. Occasionally he will, but not always. He's very respectful. Even after everything that happened, he's still quite respectful. There's a meeting at Joffrey's wedding with Cersei and Tywin, and there's a bit of heated backwards and forwards between Cersei and Oberyn. But again, he's still respectful. Cersei comes to talk to him afterwards to try and keep him away from Tyrion. Very respectful. He sits at Tyrion's trial. Very respectful, but cracking a couple of jokes and stuff like that as well. But then he's also incredibly honor bound. Yes. Yeah, he loved his sister, and the Lannisters did the Martells incredibly dirty. Dirty. And Oberyn obviously that's all he wants. He just wants someone to admit it and someone to pay for it. My little Dornish muffin. He is such an unreal character. We were excited that the Viper, we knew the Viper's fate, but we were excited that the Viper from Dawn was going to be gracing our screens. We did not know Pedro Pascal as an actor yet. Not really. He'd been in a few. Not really. Not as big as he is now by a long. If we were looking on Wikipedia, we would have noticed he was on Buffy. That would probably be the only thing that we would have tied him to anything. He was absolutely majestic from start to finish. 100%. But his lust for revenge was so clever.
like that. He wanted the House of Lannister to admit what they'd done. Not just the house, actually, just Tywin Lannister to admit what he'd done, because then he understands that breaks. Tywin will never stand trial for what he did, never. But he knows by everyone else knowing that Tywin did what he did, everything starts to break around him.
Yeah,
and it was so goddamn clever, but he got too goddamn cocky.
I don't even think it was necessarily a thing of cocky, because if you think about it, there's literally no other character that he would have fought that would have done what the Mountain did at all, that Oberyn could have got out of. The Mountain was, superhumanly strong, and that's the reason why Oberyn didn't see it coming and didn't even foresee any potential, because how can you expect to be knocked on the floor, and even when you're on the floor, then to be picked up while the other man is also lying on the floor, and then to have your head completely smashed in. There's even if someone had for instance, I don't know, let's say he fought Bronn randomly, because Bronn's the only other person I could think of. If Bronn's lying down on the floor, Bronn might have knocked over Oberyn, but Bronn wouldn't have been able to pick him up. So I don't necessarily think.
I think you're right.
Completely. I think, yes, it's a little bit naive because he got a bit too close to the Mountain, and people knew the Mountain's reputation.
If he just stepped just one step away from him, it could have all been avoided. Totally different story after that, because that meant Tyrion won.
Yeah. Everything just, it goes, but this is why I think he's the most complete character, because even if you look at every other character that's hateful and revengeful, they do stupid shit. We brought it up with the Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards. He had a game plan, and he got too emotional. Oberyn Martell was emotional, and he didn't want the Mountain to die, because as soon as the Mountain was dead and declared dead, end of ceremony, everyone goes away.
Yeah,
there's no spectacle to reveal the sort of.
Yeah, and he needed more. Everything. He really needed more out of him. He wasn't getting what he needed. He needed him to say, because everyone knew he did it, but he needed him to say who was the person who told you to do it. And because he wasn't getting that, he kept the show going.
Exactly, and it is just when you sat there watching it, even when you rewatch it, you're like, no, Oberyn can't die.
I know, and then he does.
But the speed, the way that he's saying it, and it's just such a powerful performance. And like I said, one of the most complete characters in Game of Thrones, because he has everything.
Yeah,
he has absolutely everything. And yeah, obviously, it's only. I think don't get me wrong. He's a filler character. He was there to bulk up the season and everything like that. I wouldn't say a season, but he was there to bulk up a particular lapse in George R.R. Martin's writing, whatever it is. It's just that sort of filler character with filler bits, because it's not the only part of the story that's integral to is Tyrion escaping.
Yeah.
But even if that trial by combat didn't happen, Tyrion could have still escaped, because he would have just been in prison.
That's true, because Jaime still would have done what he did, because Jaime has a love that nobody will understand when it comes to Tyrion.
Well, he's the only person that says, well, he didn't mean to kill our mum. He was a flipping Bella. It's not his fault.
Yeah, Jaime's the more rational one out of all of them, because Cersei's just an absolute bellend.
And Tywin, to his understanding, he wants to better his family, but then he lost his wife.
But he also, to Tywin, Tyrion is everything that a Lannister wouldn't be. He wouldn't be small. He would be this golden. He would be Jaime, and he's not. And he's not Jaime, and it rips him to pieces. But with Tywin, he always understood Tyrion's knowledge.
Yeah, and always had a great respect for it and stuff like that. Anyway, because you see that. And again, Tywin could have been on my loved and, well, to be fair, falls into the category for me of loved and hated. But for me, Tywin and Charles Dance in particular, is probably the best combination of acting and character I've ever seen in a TV show, because the performance is utterly phenomenal. I don't think I would have been able to do it justice by just having it on top 5 sort of loved characters or loved and hated characters.
Totally 100% understand that. I just want to go back to Oberyn a second. I've been reading House of the Dragon and Aegon's Conquest, and the fact that everyone, the Bend, the North didn't, then they did, and everyone then bent, but Dorne didn't, and that started a huge, massive war between Dorne and Aegon the Conqueror. Huge, massive. It went on for years and years and years. I don't even think they actually finished it. I just
Aegon
think
lost.
it's just
no, it did. Aegon
did
lost.
it lose?
Because one of his
don't make that very clear. I know he lost his sister.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it was it's one of his sister wives. I think it might be
Rhaenyra. It's Rhaenyra is the other one. Is it Visenya? Visenya and Rhaenyra? Yeah, it's the other one, because the other one, she is awful. She is a piece of work.
But
it was the sweet loving sister.
It is one of them, because it's one of the OG 3 dragons. They go to Dorne, and that's where the scorpion spears things come into it. Because they actually managed to knock down her dragon, and she falls to her death.
She does.
And Aegon kind of makes an agreement. From my knowledge, he makes almost an agreement.
Probably right, it's not really. It's just like, and it was over.
Yeah, but that's pretty much how it was, because as soon as he lost his sister, he was like, well, I can't really just burn it all to the ground. They're the only peoples who have realistically, in Westeros, the only peoples who have ever killed a dragon. And
I bet that
they
scared
are
him.
Unbowed, unbent, and unbroken. So,
well, it was. I don't know what happened there. I'm very sorry.
That was very strange.
I pressed something. I think because my arrow key, I just turned my keyboard on for my lights to come on, and my arrow key is right over the pause thingy.
It's a very sorry. Sort of recording, isn't it?
Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. But I was saying it was nice to see Oberyn as that really powerful Dornish man, because when you see his brother, is it Duran? Something like that. He is nothing like
He's
Oberyn.
A good lead. Well, I say a good leader.
He's a soft-natured leader.
He keeps Dorne, and that's it. Whereas everyone kind of hates him because he doesn't get revenge for stuff. He's trying to play the game where the Dornish just want to be Dornish. He tried to bring Dorne out of being themselves to a degree. So he wasn't necessarily terrible. It was more the people that were a bit shitty to him. But he wasn't the strongest sort of character anyway. But Oberyn is the only. Don't get me wrong, with the Sand Snakes, I love the Sand Snake sort of stuff with Bronn and stuff like that anyway, because the whole conversations and stuff are brilliant. But as far as a good Dornish character, a prominent Dornish character, Oberyn's the only one we really get.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones, which is sad, but it sort of makes sense to a degree, because Dorne are more further afield than the rest.
They're not really like inland. They're like there's no reason to include them if we don't have to. No, it's part of the reasons why they joined the Seven Kingdoms was marrying into the royal household anyway. That's the only reason that Dorne joined, because they were now they were going to be prominent. Yeah,
the Dornish have their own set ways and all that sort of stuff, because that's
very different to King's Landing.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Dornish because Arthur Dayne is from Dorne, and the reason why he was picked by Rhaegar for his position was because Elia Martell's sort of like lady in waiting was Arthur Dayne's sister, and so all that sort of jazz.
Their way of life as well, just the fact that they allow that their women have as much rights as the men do, and even their bastards are treated completely different. They're not to them. It's not a slight. It's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. I've got a lot of time for Dorne in itself and the way of its life.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree there, and that rounds off my top 5. And
wow, okay.
So it's your 5 left.
Yes, so I'm going to start with number 1, who I didn't know if I see. You've gone with characters who I wouldn't necessarily go, I love them straight off the bat, but when I think when someone brings them up, I'm like, oh my god, I do love them. And I've gone for typical. That's typical characters.
I think I'm kind of glad that we've gone that way, because we've got 2 different insights, and you've gone purely off like raw emotion almost. I've just gone, you know what, I love seeing these characters on screen, or I can't stand seeing these people on screen.
Well, my first one actually ties in lovely with what we've just been talking about, because it's Tyrion Lannister. I mean, absolutely adore this man. He is the reason I love season 2 is watching his arc through. Is fantastic.
It was Tyrion's an interesting one because he is such a spoiled turd.
Yeah, he is.
But he's a brilliant spoiled turd. And
yes, he is.
He's involved start to finish in nearly every single good storyline. Apart from when Jon Snow the last couple of seasons where Jon Snow goes a bit further adrift because he's back in the north and he's not Lord Commander. But apart from that, Tyrion's involved in pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's true.
And he is such a redeeming. Well, that's the pop that you chose when on the podcast, wasn't it?
I did. It was Tyrion because I just love watching him. I love how his mind works. I love the fact that when he's wrong, even when he's totally wrong in some of he should never have joined Daenerys. He should never have made that decision to join Daenerys. What he would have done, I don't know, but that's just not him.
No, it was not in a conquest, an established kingdom. Yes, a very, very good hand of the king.
Yes, excellent. He was brilliant with Joffrey.
Yeah, but in a conquering sort of way, no, he didn't really fit as well.
But I still love I love his mind. I love how funny he is. The second series, I will bang on about the second series quite a lot because it is so brilliant how the trust Tywin gives him to go and be Hand of the King.
Yeah.
Because Tywin knows that he is going to be met with some backlash. But he knows that Tyrion is going to get some satisfaction that this came from Tywin.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the bit.
Cersei's face as well. Oh well, father.
She just literally reads it and just goes, "Get out."
He's definitely. There's not much there's barely anything to hate about Tyrion because he just has so many good moments and he is so intelligent as a character. And again, we come back to the actors. Peter Dinklage, absolutely phenomenal. The sort of character arc that Tyrion has as well, and there's just so much. Coincidentally, considering he's a dwarf, there's so much to love.
Yeah,
there's just so much.
His relationships with people as well is such a fascinating thing to watch. His relationship with Bronn is just it's melting. The fact that they are so close to start with, then they're away from each other, and the minute they come back to each other, the first thing he says to him is, I've missed you, old friend. And Bronn just turns to him and says, "Missed you too."
Yeah, it's just so nice because that also shows the progression of the story as a whole.
Yeah.
Bronn
is a very interesting character, one that did not make my list today. But
I very nearly, because if you remember, I messaged you about it, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because I was like, for those who don't know, obviously we talk behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff as well. And I was saying, I was like, I don't want to go just like super obvious and we just have like a really just love fest for characters, because I knew that obviously you were going down the list of like more pure emotion, regardless if they were popular or not.
Oh yeah.
And so I really wanted to put Bronn in there because Bronn is so brilliant. I think he does a couple of dickish things, but he is so brilliant every time he's on the screen. But I just thought that he's got too much of a fan base to be put on there.
Nah, I get that. Well, me second pick. I could not pick this character because without him, we don't really have a show at all. And I generally do when I think about it, and I've thought about this a lot over the last few days, and I've been watching a lot of scenes just with him in solely. And there is not one part of me that there's a part in season 2 that I just honestly could bypass because it bores the tits off us. But everything else, nothing bores him at all in any scene that he's in, any story that he's in. He drives the main story. It's Jon Snow. Yeah, I absolutely love him. And it's taken us a very long time to admit that I genuinely do love Jon Snow.
He's one of those characters that I think originally you were either on the case of everybody loved him, or because he was Jon Snow and, oh, look, he's very pretty and stuff like that. But also, he was a lot of, because he's the main character.
Mm-hmm.
People are very much, I love to hate. I just hate him because I have to, because he's the main character, sort of thing. Whereas actually, you do get a lot of love for him, because for me, I think I'm still on that journey of finding my true love for Jon Snow. My favourite parts about Jon Snow are towards the end of his tenure as Lord Commander, where he's bringing the wildlings back, he's doing what's right, and Maester Aemon says, screw what everyone else says, you're doing the right thing because you think it's right. And obviously then he dies, he gets brought back, gives the coat to Ed, who nearly made my list of love, because I love Ed, and says, do whatever you want with it, I'm done. My watch has ended. And he just turns angry. And I love that, because he felt like a real character, rather than just I'm the main character with plot armor. He felt like a real character. Yeah,
he felt like that when he come back from the dead, it felt like everything that, because he was very much Ned Stark. Let's be honest, like it was almost terrifying how much he was like Ned Stark.
A young Ned, a young Ned, 100%. He was very much
when he comes back from the dead, he's Jon Snow. He's him.
He did what Maester Aemon wanted, just probably a bit too late, was let the boy, kill the boy, let the man, sort of live, because he did become the man.
Yeah, he needed to. I think he held so tightly onto the fact that he was part of the Stark family, whether he didn't share their name, and he understood, obviously understood that, but he held so tightly onto the fact that he was a Stark that he kind of, that's all that drove him. Like, I was watching the first series when he first goes to the Wall, and he is an asshole to all of them boys that he's training with, because he's had all this training. He's worked in the finest household in the Seven Kingdoms, and he is a dick to them, and it takes Tyrion, another one of the characters, to humble him. And when he's humbled, you start to see the change in him, but it's not instantly, because he's still it's not until he dies, because I don't think Honorable Jon Snow would have killed Ollie. I don't know.
No,
I don't think Honorable Jon Snow would have killed him at all.
Or Dennis Flynn.
No, I don't think he would have done it. But it has to take death in order to
I like what you said about the start as well, because he went to the Wall because he was used to growing up as a bastard. Yes, he was loved by his brothers and sisters minus Sansa, hated by Catelyn, but he was treated like a Stark. When he got to the Wall, sorry, not Winterfell, they didn't care if he was a bastard or highborn. He was just another person, but he was very skilled. So he became almost a spoiled brat.
Yeah, he did.
And when obviously he was Jorah Mormont's steward, he threw a tantrum. And he kept throwing tantrums like a child. And that's why his character arc is so good. And
you just don't have a story without him. And it was my dad who made that final decision for us, because I was talking to my dad about it, and I was like, right, I actually had Davos in his place.
He nearly got on mine.
Oh, the Irishman with a Geordie accent. Absolutely love him. But when I really think about it, Jon is the driving force of throughout the whole season, throughout the whole series. Without him, you don't have a story. Without him, his bravery to take on the Night King, he just didn't give a shit. It's taken a long time for us to get here, because I have always been a Lannister. I have always had Lannister pride. Everything, honestly, my phone cases, my phone cases, my even my headphones at one point, everything was Lannister, and I was like, I don't like Starks and I don't like Jon Snow. And it's taken us a long time to like finally realize that Jon Snow is a really good fucking character. So Jon Snow made my love list.
Yeah, I think there is like certain points where they're a little bit boring, but he is in start to finish. He plays a massive part, so he's not going to have every single scene is going to be phenomenal and all that sort of stuff. But what you're saying about he doesn't give a shit, I think it's because he gives too much of a shit about protecting people.
Yeah.
No one else is going to do it, so I've got to do it.
Yeah. When there's one bit that I was a bit disappointed about in his character, and maybe this is just because we were expecting so much. When he finds out who he is, he doesn't do a lot with that information at all, and there's nothing like. I think because as fans, and that theory was huge throughout the community.
Was
like massive. And when we finally got it confirmed that we were fucking right, it was everything, and then but it wasn't to him, and I, as a viewer, I'm sitting there going, like
it meant more.
But what it was, I didn't know what I was expecting.
It meant more to Daenerys because she was threatened all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And even Jon's going, I don't really want it, to be honest, because I think that's right as well, because that's sticking true to his character, because he didn't want to be Lord Commander, but he had to be. He would never have been king unless he had to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And he wasn't, I don't think he was smart enough, to be honest, to rule, because he was very, very naive for a lot of parts.
Yeah, I think we would just, because we wanted to see Daenerys on our arse, that's not what Jon wanted, or what Jon would do. That's just us as viewers having that expectation, with obviously of how right we were with that theory.
And that's the thing, and that's where a lot of people have arguments for the latter sort of seasons, is that it doesn't really mean anything at the end. I think it will. I think in the coming Snow show, if that still goes ahead and actually comes out,
he's talking about it like it is. So
that's because that was the closest one, because they've shelved a lot of side projects that they were going to do for Game of Thrones. And Snow is supposedly the next one, so that is closing as far as the last things that I've read. I think it will clear up and clarify a few little bits.
It'd be nice if he can go and find himself.
Well, if he goes and finds dragons and stuff, he could start a brand new Targaryen dynasty.
Oh, imagine. But that's just not in Jon's nature.
It could become Jon's nature.
That's right. I mean,
I think fuck the snow. Fuck this shit.
I am absolutely freezing. I am sick of wearing this bloody fur. I need some sun.
A stupid little crippled brother who thinks he's a bird is ruling the kingdom. He's taking a piss. Well, it's not even his little brother, is it? It's his cousin. So
it's his cousin. The cousins. So yeah, Jon Snow is my second pick. My third pick, oh my god, this woman has my heart, my soul. She can have a kidney. I'll give her anything. It's Brienne Tarth. I love her so much. Love her.
I don't.
I had a feeling of that, the expression on your face there.
Yeah, I know. I don't fully. So when Brienne, for a while, when Brienne's sort of about, and even sort of after the whole Jaime arc and all this sort of stuff, I just find her a little bit annoying, because she will just, as soon as she meets someone, I will die for you, and it's like, oh, fuck off, get up, like stop it. And the next person she meets, I will die for you, and it's like, oh, come on now,
No.
But there's the thing, apart from that, she has some really funny, I get why, because she has some really funny scenes. She has that incredible crossover story with Jaime that carries on afterwards as well. She has her knighting. She defeats the fucking Hound as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are obviously questioning her fighting abilities. Just as fans, everyone watching the show would have been like, could she really be doing something? Then she goes up against the Hound, and yeah, she doesn't win comfortably because it's the fucking Hound. But
she gets him. She beats him. And he has a lot of respect for that.
He does. Even moving forward, I mean, even the reaction of because Gwendoline Christie is an utter babe. Like, I'm sorry, but she just is. Like, if you can't love Gwendoline Christie, then we can't be friends.
We can't be friends because she's absolutely beautiful. I cried my eyes out in Star Wars because of how unutilized her character was. I wanted more.
Captain Fav.
She looked fucking phenomenal. She looks phenomenal in everything she does. When I first saw her, I was actually quite intimidated by her. I was like, "Fuck me!" But then I remember
6'3" Gwendoline Christie.
Yes, but then I remember I'm a tall person who is incredibly awkward when I stand up against normal sized people, and I can just say, I was like, I love the fact that she stood with her back straight all the time. And for some people who are not like tall, they may not pick up on that, but she always stood with her back straight. She always showed her height. She never slouched. And as tall people who are uncomfortable about their height, they will slouch.
Yeah. Heads of people watching, I don't slouch because I'm tall. I'm slouched just because I have really bad posture. Everyone that watches it, because that's why my head disappears in a lot of things, because
you have bad posture. Yeah. Well, I do yoga, so I stand up straight a lot.
But I know what you mean, though, Brian.
She's a goddess, and her. I know what you mean by the fact that she tends to just. She wants to fix. She wants to protect people. All she wants to do is protect people, and she does an all right job of it. There's some things she does fail a little bit in, like she couldn't get Arya back, but that wasn't her. That's not on her when Arya is a little firecracker that she is. But she stuck by Sansa.
She did, and she kept Pod when she didn't want Pod, and she took Jaime all the way to King's Landing. She maintained that relationship with him as well, so she did what Catelyn wanted. So she is a good defender. I think it's just because with me, she rubbed off on me in the wrong way at the start, because she just hopped constantly, and it was just like, ugh.
It was lovely seeing the fact that she was, for all she's very masculine in what she does, the fact that she's in the armor and she's fighting, she still had that girly side to her where she just she loved Renly, and the girliness in her whenever he was mentioned it's really it's hard. It was heartwarming.
It's the same as Jaime though, like, because Cersei says, "Do you love him?" And
there's such a different thing with Jaime. Jaime and her are kindred spirits. It's just that Cersei is completely in the way. Do you know what? My top 3 are kind of all linked to each other. So I've got Brienne of Tarth, I've got the Hound, and I've got Jaime Lannister. So so they're all kind of linked to each other, like Brienne and the Hound in the fight.
How dare you wear that wolf on your chest for this video and be so entwined with Lannister?
Yeah, my Lannister t-shirt. I actually generally didn't know. I do have a Lannister t-shirt. I generally didn't know where it was until earlier on, and I was so cold. I was like, I'm not taking this jumper off. Yeah, so Brienne and Jaime, I just wanted them to, on the last series, when the Battle of Winterfell was happening, like the last one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I swear to God, I swear to all of them, if anything happens to either of them to where they cannot run off in the sunset and go on adventures and have big giant babies, I am going to be absolutely fucking livid. Thank God that it didn't, but Jaime did her so bad. Jaime should never have slept with her at all. Because that's just not Jaime. Jaime is very much in love with his sister.
But I think that with that though, it was more of a case of he didn't even foresee that he could potentially love someone as much as he loved Cersei.
Yeah.
Because
I just wish he didn't do it. I wish he didn't do it and break her heart.
I know, but it was the more sort of heartbreaking thing was, I don't think it was the whole sleeping together. That solidified it for, I think, everyone watching, because I was still on the fence of, is this just more of a really loving, friendly relationship, or is this more romantic? And with them sleeping together and stuff like that anyway, it was the heartbreaking part is that solidified it for Brienne. I think Jamie knew already anyway, but it solidified it for Brienne. But Brienne didn't have a Cersei, whereas Jamie did, and the love of his life, who he's always been with
since in utero.
Yes. And he had to go back, and that was the more heartbreaking point, that no matter that he loved Brienne as much as he did.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to them two, I didn't actually see it as a romantic or no. there's a line between friendship and romance where something is so special it doesn't need to be defined. And that is exactly where I saw them two. I didn't see romance, and I just thought it was a higher power relationship, like a higher power of friendship that didn't need that. Just them to be together in their each other's company was more than enough for me. So for him to do that and then leave it, he was always going to leave it for Cersei. That is just Jamie. He was always going to leave her, regardless if Cersei was in trouble or not. He was never not going to go back to her.
And that was so sad, because I think the first sort of hints that I think that it could have been romantic is when she leaves Riverrun after trying to convince the Blackfish to give up the castle and stuff. She gets away.
So funny.
And they when Jamie waves at her, because he knows he's probably not going to see it, but if he ever sees her again, it's not going to be for a very long time.
Yeah.
And he's the one to initiate it. And for me, that was that sort of standpoint of, I think it's a bit more.
Yeah.
Personally.
There was just something more higher.
It transcended everything, because there was nothing familial involved with it. That's even a word.
Transcended is the best word.
What's that?
Transcendent is the best word for them too.
Yeah, it does transcend everything. It transcends wars, affiliations, family, everything. It was something that neither of them expected, which made it so much.
I think because Jamie, the moment I love with Jamie, and I will be shocked to shit if I don't cry or even drop a tear while talking about it, because it is one of the most emotional, most beautiful, honest scenes that there is. And it's in the bathhouse when Jamie tells Brienne, and probably the only person he has ever told this to, why he did what he did. And it really, because up until that point, Jamie is a bastard. Like, you just fucking hate Jamie Lannister. He's an absolute bastard.
Well, not up until the bath scene. I think as he loses his hand,
he loses his hand. So he loses it. So they get captured. Jamie loses his hand,
trying to defend Brienne, isn't it?
Yeah, and also they want to send a message to Tywin by sending Jamie's hand. And I don't know if she's done the bear scene at this point. I can't remember, but I can't remember. I just remember that bathhouse scene because Jamie's in a lot of pain because he passes out at the end, if you remember.
The bear scene had already happened, yeah, because that was already when they got back to a safer place. That's why it happened in the bath anyway, because Brienne has to get help for him, don't she?
That's right. And it's that when he's talking about, how many people, he's mentioned it before. He mentions it before when someone asks him, how many people have you saved? Like from killing people to saving people. And he says the entirety of King's Landing. But he goes into detail about it because again, up until this point, Jamie is an arsehole, a lovable arsehole, but an arsehole nonetheless. He's a dick, not the greatest of people. What he did to Ned Stark was terrible, was awful, and this, that, and the other. Then you get to him and Brienne on this little trail that Catelyn Stark sent them on, and he opens up about why he did it, why he killed the Mad King, and why he has no problem in bearing that name, because that name is just, it's an awful name to carry around as being a Kingslayer.
Second worst name to give a knight, especially, or even just any man in King's Landing, other than Kinslayer. That's the worst one. And
it's just a beautiful scene between the two of them. and then she, at the end, when she goes, the Kingslayer needs help, and he goes, Jaime, my name's Jaime.
But it's also her face while he's telling her that, because at this point Brienne still finds him to be really arrogant. And
yeah.
So, but then in hearing that, her face changes, and the fact that he lost an arm protecting her dignity and everything like that. But also, you mentioned about these front. We actually get a very early seeing that compared to Cersei, who doesn't really know right from wrong because she just thinks she's right 100% of the time, no matter what
that's
she does.
True.
Jaime knows right from wrong, because you know when he's faced with Ned and he fights Ned.
Oh yeah, and he when the guy puts the arrow in the bottom of
his spear
in his foot, he won't fight him because he's disabled.
And it's an honourable fight between, again, because Ned was very revered as a fighter as well. So Jaime obviously has never fought Ned before or anything like that. And yes, Ned's older, but so is Jaime, because towards the sort of, I mean, while even Joffrey was still alive, Jaime was late 40s.
Yeah. Not that much older than Ned. I mean, he was there when the rebellion happened, and how many years is between the rebellion and where they're at that point?
I think probably that Ned's, we're looking probably mid-50s probably, but not that much older. So it still would have been like a fairish fight of two people not quite in their prime.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to be fair, I do get your love for Jaime, because his arc, his character arc is, without a shadow of a doubt, the best arc there is in Game of Thrones. There's nothing that comes close.
No. It's you to everyone else, what he did was the right thing to do. When we're looking at his viewers, like, yes, of course, why would you not kill this mad king who's just about to set fucking fire to the whole entire of his kingdom?
Yeah.
But everyone else in this world, that's the worst thing he ever did. And he will be punished for it for a very long time afterwards, even though it was the right, it's so frustrating.
There's also something that's really beautiful is when he's with Myrcella, just before Myrcella dies.
I hate that scene so much.
Oh, so do I, because you forget, yes, it's disgusting with the whole incest thing and stuff like that. George R. R.
Not even that. I just think it was unnecessary.
But it was just the whole thing of, that Myrcella knows anyway, and it was the very first time ever that Jaime got to be a dad, because you got to remember, Jaime's got 3 kids. He's had to watch one of them die where they couldn't do anything.
Do you know what though? We all get ourselves all blustered at the fact that Jaime and Cersei have had a relationship and had 3 children, yet we don't batter an eyelid when we think about the fact that the Targaryens had been doing that for centuries upon centuries. Exactly. Daenerys is the product of incest, but for the fact that it's Jaime and Cersei, 2 people, out of it, why can't we accept that?
Yeah, and that's the sort of, well, I mean, to be fair, when I watched it and stuff like that, I mean, you've seen way worse things in the flipping news, and that's real. Yeah. Compared to a complete fantasy world, and you get why he does this, because in having 3 children, Cersei would still be Cersei, Tyrion would still be Tyrion. However, if George R. R. Martin didn't write the incest story between Jaime and Cersei, Jaime's character would be dull as fuck, because of a lot of his intentions wouldn't make as much sense. Yeah. His whole story wouldn't make as much sense.
That's
than what
true.
It does.
He needs Cersei.
Yes, he does, and Cersei. But this is the problem as well, which obviously made it more heartbreaking. The whole Brienne thing is that Cersei didn't actually need Jaime as much.
No, that was exactly what I was going to follow up with. As much as Jaime needed her, she didn't need him. And when Jaime, before Brienne happens, and this is probably more book Jaime's never been with anyone else. Jaime doesn't know anything else. He's only ever been with Cersei. And Cersei can't say the same, because Cersei has had nearly everyone in King's Landing. She doesn't have, Jaime has such a connection to her that she doesn't actually have back with him. She just knows that she needs him and nobody else can have him.
That's the problem, isn't it? Is that's very much Cersei as well. I get what I want.
Yep.
And it's so sad, especially it's sad when Cersei talks down to Brienne about Jaime as well. Because you just think, oh, you bitch. You don't even want him.
Brienne would knock you on your ass.
Brienne deserves better. She would treat Jaime so much better than you.
Absolutely. But it would never. This is why I never understood why he slept with her for, because it was never going to work out between the two of them, and I knew that. I wasn't sitting there going, "Oh my god, yay, they got together finally."
One real night of proper love, because I mean, Brienne's not one for really loving someone. I don't even think she really loved. I don't think she even really loved Renly. I think it was just more of a case of Renly treated her with respect.
She was very infatuated with Renly.
I think that's the difference, yeah.
That was that's a very teenagey, girly thing, like when you are completely infatuated with a person. Yeah, I think you're right with that. Maybe it was just maybe it's nice that she got that one night, but
I thought they were going to die. I mean, there is that.
Just the fact that she had her heart broken by him, but she still had something, and because at the end it's her who writes Jaime's story in the Book of Nights. Even though it's a very frustrating scene because she's using ink and she's not allowing the page to dry, and she turns it very quickly and it does not smudge. She even touches the ink and it still doesn't smudge. It is incredibly frustrating, but a beautiful scene nonetheless.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know, but then you've still got one character left over as well. I mean, this is why I didn't want to go for just my top 5 loved emotionally wise, because it gets very emotional.
It does get really emotional, but I'll end. So the 3 that were tried together was Brienne, the Hound, and Jaime, and I think I've talked Jaime and Brienne, and I will talk Jaime more as the time goes on. But the Hound, what a fucking arc from start
Rory
to the end.
Right, like, don't get me wrong, Jaime's arc trumps it as well, but for just the fact of where the Hound started off to where he ended up,
he goes on more than a journey than the majority of the characters in here. He starts off as Prince Joffrey's little dog,
which he hates, but
which he hated, and then he fucked the king.
Fuck you, literally, by the way.
No, not literally.
For anyone watching, that's not.
We have to remember it's Game of Thrones, so I'm not talking literal sense. He literally said, "F you, I'm out of here," and he goes off. And my God, is that when he finds Arya? And he goes on these little quests for Arya, which was some of the most amazing writing that I've ever seen played out. It was fantastic. To being a part of the Brotherhood. To then go in with Jon to get bloody White Walker to prove to Kings. Oh my God, he just boom, boom, boom. It's
comedic genius.
Yes.
Genius. He's comically brilliant. He's an incredible fighter. He's very, very sturdy as well, because obviously you have the whole most of a season where he doesn't appear because everyone thinks he's dead.
Yeah. And I knew he wasn't, and I was so happy when he returned. He actually had a face change as well. So in the first few episodes, he has his hair it's like almost shaved off to where his burn part is.
Yeah,
it has like a gap in his hair, and then all of a sudden there's a comb over on the top of it, and it's gone, and you never see that gap again of his hair. It just combs over.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is what I brought up earlier, but like Baelish's accent. There were a lot of changes and stuff like that, but I'm so glad that they didn't fuck with the characters, the actual base of the characters at all, because the Hound, again, he's one of those sort of characters that, even when he is Joffrey's little dog, there's no real scenes, apart from when he kills the butcher's boy.
Yeah.
There's no real scenes where you think, oh, you disgust me in this sort of thing, because he's like a dad to Arya as well. He tries taking it, because it's a thing, yes, he wants a reward, but more so he's taking it to safety.
When he sees what's happening, he knows what's happening at the Red Wedding. Without seeing anything, he knew what was going on, and he took her out of there instantly. And there's a few bits with the Hound that I wanted to talk about. The first one is him and Sansa. Him and the way he calls that little bird. Yeah. Little bird. And I think he stayed there as long as he could for her.
To some degree,
I think he was terrified and what was going to actually happen to her. It's when they meet each other back at Winterfell, and he says to her, if you'd have come with me, you would never have had to marry Tyrion. You would never have had to marry Roose. There would have been no Lannisters, no Boltons. You would have been free. And she went, but if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be a free little bird. Or something like that. It's such a beautiful, it's such a full circle moment for the two of them. And just to know that he cared for her, he really genuinely cared for her. The fact that he could still remember that.
I think that's why I cared for Arya as well, though, because I think it was more just a case of little girls being in such a big world without proper family and stuff like that. Because obviously he was a little child who didn't have his father's support. His brother tried killing him. And he just wanted to protect them, and it's so beautiful because you don't quite know his intentions. Even when he's trying to egg Arya on to kill him, and he can see it's not working, so he just starts crying and begging.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad she didn't. I'm so glad she didn't have that in her to do that. The him and Arya were fantastic together, hilarious. There's some brilliant fight scenes. I mean, what that man won't do for a chicken was just phenomenal.
I think I'll take 2 chickens.
But when him and Brienne talking, when they meet up in King's Landing to go and deliver the White Walker they've got, she says, he goes something along the lines of, so you weren't able to protect her. And she was like, the only person who needs protecting is the person who who goes up against her. And the pair of them just look at each other with this satisfying smile, like, we did that. Like his relationship with Arya is fantastic. And his relationship with his brother, fuck me, so complex.
I think I think the very opening fight that they have, because I mean the Mountain was played by 3 different actors.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the very first actor, but the second one was Ian White, who is very famous for playing he played a lot like Wun and a lot of the giants.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of monster stuff like that because he's about 7 foot tall anyway. He's one that appears at Harrenhal when Tywin Lannister appears.
Yeah.
And then obviously it becomes Hathor Bjornsson when the Viper's there anyway at the start of that battle. But that original fight I think was potentially better because they look more alike.
Yeah.
He
had like a black beard, didn't he?
Yes.
And very angry looking face.
Oh, majorly angry face. I mean, he did chop a horse's head off in like one swing.
I cannot watch that scene.
That was that was awful. But you saw that the Mountain was just pure like anger and hate, and just he was a loose cannon, whereas the Hound was much more reserved, but still an incredible fighter and all that sort of stuff. When it came to Clegane Bowl, though, like the whole zombie mountain stuff, I didn't like, if I'm being very honest, because especially the fact that he mentioned when the zombie mountain was there was, he's now took a vow of silence until he vanquishes all your majesty. And I thought, boring.
Yeah.
Like at least make him if he's like half zombie or just whatever he is, at least make him talk and be a bit more of an active carrier than just a big bodyguard.
Yeah, just give him something a bit more characteristic that he's still there. It's when the other moment I wanted to talk about with Hound is with his brother at the end, where he looks him dead in the eye, and he just not Clegane Bowl, just before it, where they're in the courtyard, and Cersei and her little cronies have just sat down, and the Hound goes up to him and says, "What have they done to your little brother?" Is it little brother or big brother?
I think it's Big Brother.
Big Brother.
What have they done to you? I'm sure.
Yeah. What have you done? Like, what have you done to your big brother? And he just goes, "They won't take you. You know who's coming for you," and just goes and sits down. And I'm like, "Fuck yes!"
But that like Clegane Bowl should have been better because it deserved to be better.
They died together,
but
the Hound died in fire. And the fact that Cersei's scooting out the way of I'll just move around you.
But what's his name? Qyburn gets killed, don't he?
That's
a good comeuppance. Which obviously is great.
Clegane Bowl was such an anticlimax, but I don't know as viewers what we were expecting.
No, that's the sort of thing because, I mean, maybe that sort of meeting with the White anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Clegane Bowl could have happened then, where things start kicking off a little bit, gets a bit wild. Clegane Bowl happens, and things calm down a little bit after Clegane Bowl, and they reconvene the sort of meeting and say, look, fine.
Yeah, they just have a massive brawl, and then all of a sudden they all just sit down and go, right, so there's a White Walker in there.
yeah. And that's the sort of thing. I think it might have been better suited to have it there, because they did it on a stairwell, and the Hound was the smaller of the two brothers anyway, so it made it even worse. And don't get me wrong, I like the fact that the Hound was being beat up quite bad, and he was stabbing him, and like, what the fuck's going on? Like, you're not dying, just die.
Yeah, he knew what he had to do. It's a shame that he
dying together. Like, I don't tend to like those sort of deaths unless it's
poetic, and there's nothing poetic about them two.
No, well, to be fair, there is, because they're sort of opposites, because the Hound has a lot of empathy, whereas the Mountain has zero.
But then he's also absolutely brain dead as well.
Exactly. So it's not the Hound coming over his big brother. It's just
there is some beautiful shots though on that stairwell. If you're just looking at like still screenshots, like there's some beautiful shots of them two together. I do like that if the Hound was going to die, it was by something that scared him. He died by fire. He jumped into fire.
Yeah, it's because that part of it is very poetic. And don't get me wrong, I think that the Hound, like Clegane Bowl is a separate issue, but the Hound as a character,
top notch.
Like how can you hate him a little bit at the start and stuff like that.
It's just me. I didn't. I loved him. I loved his helmet. I thought his helmet was just I absolutely loved him. It was his first interaction with Tyrion, when Tyrion's just slapped the shit out of Joffrey and he goes, "You will pay for that, little lord." It's the fact that he calls him little lord, and it's like such like he has. When he's familiar with people, he gives them nicknames and
personality. He has personality.
Yeah, and there was something just in his tone. He wasn't Meryn Trant, where Meryn would have like absolutely annihilated Tyrion for what he just done to the prince.
Or Janos Slynt, who would have gone and told on him.
Yes, exactly. The Hound just was like, "You'll pay for that one, little lord."
He knows the game.
Yeah. And there was nothing about him that I hated from like the get-go. I adored him. I adore Rory McCann. Yarp. He will always be Yarped for me, but now he's the Hound. He's the fact that man taught me swear words. I didn't even know like combination of swear words. He's just absolutely fantastic. I generally didn't think I'd be talking about the Hound as much, but Jaime is someone you will find throughout this whole thing I will talk about a lot.
Buckle up, kids.
Well, there we go. Top fives, love and hate.
Yeah, I think I think I do like that we had that such a big split again. Should we just quickly run over, because we've had a couple of, well, for us, I think it's more of a case of reminding us, because it's been concurrent for everybody else, but we had like a 20 minute, half
there was
hour
a breaks. My apologies.
So I can't remember. So my top five hated were Grand Maester Pycelle, Melisandre, Lysa and Robin Arryn, Janos Slynt and the Waif.
Yes. Yep. Mine was Stannis and Selyse Baratheon. Peter Baelish, Janos Slynt, and Viserys Targaryen.
Yeah. I also had the other ones as well, which are High Sparrow, Renly, Stannis, and Robert as well for the crossovers.
Yes.
Top five loved. I think the order that I went in was Beric Dondarrion, Jorah Mormont, Gilly, Podrick Payne, and Oberyn Martell.
Mine was Tyrion Lannister, Jon Snow, Brienne of Tarth, the Hound, and Jaime Lannister. My golden lion.
We will be hearing more about that. Oh, something I found funny the other day as I was talking with Lannisters before we do the wheel. During obviously the Lannisters' house words being "hear me roar," and you barely ever hear it.
They never say them because they always use the one that they created themselves, which is Lannister always pays their debts.
There is actually one. There is a scene where you hear the Lannister army shout "hear me roar."
Oh, really?
Yes, it is. I can't remember if it's the sort of I think it's the party where Walder Frey is hosting the Lannisters after they take back Riverrun. I think it is, because I heard it. It's like an offshoot. Like the scene kind of backs out. And it's just once. You can just hear me roar. And
I can't believe we've done a love and hate list and Walder Frey has not come in to any part of the conversation. I think Walder has his own section at some point.
He does. But I love David Bradley. I could have put him on the list, but I love David Bradley too much to be put. These are my hated characters. I love David. David Bradley is a saint.
Yes, very much so. But I think Walder Frey and his fucked up family will have like their own section because it's a mess. I'm going to spin that wheel.
Let's get the wheel going for what we're going to be talking about next.
Wheel of Destiny.
Let's see, because I have added some new ones as well. We've added some new ones to the list. That's going to be an interesting one. We've got House of the Dragon versus Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow. Okay, so for the for the majority of our episodes, we have just focused on Game of Thrones. That's going to be
interesting because it's, yes, obviously, before anyone says it, yes, there's one season of House of the Dragon compared to 8 seasons of Game of Thrones.
I get that.
But as a whole, and also you've got a lot of other factors going into it, which we can pick up on because it's not as small a subject, I think, as some people will think.
Yeah, I like that. That's going to be an interesting one.
That's going to take a lot of research.
I feel like I'm going to have to do more House of the Dragon research than Game of Thrones.
I've not done a rewatch of House of the Dragon yet.
That's probably I think that might be something that I might need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. So today has been really fun. Sorry that it might seem a bit stoppy-starty at some points, but real life.
Yeah, these are not done. They are sort of done live. They're all we try and do it as much as we can as one takes, but it's not live where we obviously keep it out live. Things happen. So.
Things happen. Life happens. Husbands need picking up. Thank God I've got a pause button. Sorry, Paul. But yes, so next week is House of the Dragon versus Game of Thrones. Very interesting. I'm not going to bother promoting. It might go up today. I don't know. But if it does go up today and you manage to see this before 7:30 on a Sunday evening, tonight's episode is Top 5 British Films. Live on YouTube at 7:30. So
it will be on YouTube anyway. After the live point. If it doesn't go up before and you don't see this before anyway, it's going to be up on YouTube regardless.
It'll be exactly.
And it'll be a very interesting one because I took part when Paul asked about that on Facebook. About top 5 British films, and I gave not top 5, but top British films, and I gave like a whole heap of stuff because
I'm gonna go and have a look because I'm struggling. I'm struggling with my last pick, so I might go and have a look at your list and see if there's anything there I can steal. So if you hear it tonight, then I stole it from you. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone who's contributed to the Patreon or who has watched our first episode on YouTube. Thank you so much. Anything else, Sam number 2?
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
Stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.